Welcome to Go Simcha, the podcast that takes you on an in-depth approach to the Jewish music, entertainment, and Simcha world. Now, here's your host, Zisha Littman. Hello, everybody. Welcome to a very cool show. This is a new show that we're debuting right now. This is episode 1. It's absolutely amazing that we're doing another podcast with the success of our current and ongoing podcast, Go Simcha the podcast, where we interview famous Jewish musicians, singers, and songwriters. We've decided to do a spin-off show called Beyond the Simcha. In this show, we're going to be sitting down with some of our vendors on our site, gosimcha.com, to take you behind the scenes of the Simcha world and the event world, to give you a better understanding, a better picture about just who these vendors are, so they can help you make an educated decision when planning your next event. And I'd love to welcome and kick off episode 1 with a very cool vendor, a guy who's been with us since day 1 on Go Simcha, Jeff Neckonoff of Azamra DJ. And I'm so happy to have Jeff here on our show with us. He's going to talk a little bit more about his craft, what it's all about, and how a DJ can really enhance your Simcha. So what's going on, Jeff? How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. It's great to hear from you. Great speaking to you. I'm looking forward to this podcast episode.
Yeah, it should be fun. So I remember when we first spoke many months ago, when we first launched the site, I got you on board as a vendor, and we were talking, and you were telling me all about DJing and what it's all about, and how you've been in the business for a while. Am I correct? You've been doing this. You've been entertaining people for a while, right?
Yeah, I've actually been in the industry since the late '80s.
Wow.
Quite a while. Yeah.
Wow. So how did you get involved in this? How did you get involved in the industry?
Actually, it started as a hobby back during high school when DJing was first starting out. And I bought myself turntables. I taught myself how to DJ. I actually spent 10 years doing nightclubs in the secular world. Wow. And yes, and I used to do pretty much a lot of secular Jewish as well as Gentile parties, and then I became Baal Tshuva in 2005, and I converted my whole company and business to a Shomer Shabbat company called Azamra.
That's really cool. Now, when you guys go out there into doing these parties, what are you predominantly doing? You're doing bar and bat mitzvahs, you're doing weddings, what type of events do you guys generally service?
So we're predominantly bar and bat mitzvah, and I'd say most of that is probably 75% bat mitzvah. So it's probably 10% wedding and 90% mitzvahs, and the 75% of that is bat mitzvahs. For some reason, the girls have a lot more dancing than the boys. The boys won't have a Shabbat event or something else that's not dance-oriented.
Right. So that must be fun to go out there and entertain crowds of people. I know I saw some of your videos when we were making you that promo video. You sent me a lot of footage, and I saw you guys really get the crowd going. Your motivators really get the crowd going, and everyone seems to be into it. And so what goes into putting on the perfect bat mitzvah party to bring simcha and joy to that girl who just turned 12?
There's a lot of aspects to the formula. One is, not to toot my own horn, but I'm doing this 30-something years, so I have a feel of how a party should run and the energy and what happens at the right time. There's a certain level of professionalism that you won't get with, like, say, a newer company or someone who just started out very recently. So you have that, which is a big part of it. Second is the talent. So I'm very particular with the motivators and MCs we hire. Right. They have to go through an audition process, which basically they come to 2 or 3 events that we're doing with my existing performers, and I get to see if they're up to the same level of energy and fun and just connecting with the kids at a party. And for like the bat mitzvahs, we have 10 girls who work for us, and for the bar mitzvahs, I have about 4 or 5 guys. We never mix boys into a girl party and vice versa. And so just the energy level, they have to pass a certain level. Like, a lot of times I'll audition people and they're great on the phone, but at an event, like, they'll freeze, and that's no good, because you only have one time to make someone's event special. So my people have to be on top of it, ready to go, and know what's happening at every moment. Plus, we have a rapport, simply because we work together a lot. So they know what I expect and they know what's coming next. And I'll just tell them if I'm changing it. So it's a nice formula that works very well to make that party super special to each and every one of my bar and bat mitzvah clients.
That's really cool. So it seems like you because your knowledge in the industry, you've been doing it for over 30 years, and the ability you know how to get the crowd going, and you pick the right people to do it. It seems like people really must walk away with a lasting impression. And and that's what you want when you're doing an event, when you're doing a simcha or any type of event. You want people to walk away with that lasting impression, so that way it stays in their head. It must be really cool. It must be exciting.
Very exciting. So that exactly is our goal. We want every party to end on a high, on a crescendo. We very hard try not to let it fade away, which you'll sometimes have at an outside party with other things going on. If they have 14 events happening and they're not concentrating on the music aspect of the event, that might happen. And that happens maybe at 1% of the events we do because most of our parties are music centered.
Right.
So we want to end on that crescendo, which we do, on a super high note. And it's literally, bam, high energy, and everyone screams. Let's hear it for your bat mitzvah girl, your bar mitzvah boy. Bam, and the music ends, and everyone goes out like, wow, that was great. So the client leaves very happy. The bar bat mitzvah child leaves happy, and the guests leave like, wow, that was great. And there's a lot of adrenaline flowing by the time.
I totally know what you mean. I mean, back when I was younger, when I was in middle school and we were hitting the bar and bat mitzvah age and scene, I was going to different simchas every single night, and there was these DJs and these motivators, and I'm 29. This is going back close to 16, and I still remember those guys out there, who are doing, we're doing the cha-cha slide, we're doing the Cotton Eye Joe, we're doing all that fun stuff. And I still remember this stuff back when I was 13. And, you guys probably have that same thing. You have to get people coming back to you from years later saying, man, I remember that. I remember you guys were so energetic and so into it. And that must mean that you're doing your job right.
Exactly. We want to make it an event, a simcha. Obviously, we want to keep it Jewish and kosher, but we also make it like a theatrical production.
Right.
Not that we're rehearsing because we do it all the time. We know what to do. Every party's customized, but that kid is the star of their party.
So how does it work with your motivators and your team? They're not necessarily Jewish. So how do they relate to the crowd? What do they do in order to better relate to the crowd? Because they're not, I guess doing bar and bar mitzvahs every single night in weddings, Jewish weddings, you probably eventually get to know the crowd and understand the culture. But how does your team get there and understand that, and so they can make the show even better?
That's very funny you say that, because every single one of my motivators and MCs are Jewish, and all out of the Jewish day school or yeshiva system. Every single one.
Well, there you go. So then, never mind. But I'm sure you have worked over the years with people who didn't come from that type of matzav. So, how would they relate to the crowd?
So that it rarely happens. Once in a while, we'll have 4 or 5 parties, on a Sunday or a Motzi Shabbos, in the winter, and I'll have to cover events, and we run out of dances. Once in a while, it doesn't happen often, and I will go to certain people I've used in the past, who I trust, and they know our culture and how to dress sneeze and what's proper, what's not proper. But it rarely happens. Usually, if it does, there'll be one of those type of dances motivators with someone who came up through the Orthodox system. So there's no surprises and there's nothing that's not so appropriate going on. So everything's very controlled with us.
That's great. Yeah. So in your industry, especially in the From Simcha industry, how many other people do what you do? Because it seems like you have a pretty big team. Everybody is from. Everybody knows the score, knows what's going on. The energy is there. How many other DJs do what you do out there, and what makes it different?
On our level, meaning with motivators and staging and lighting and just experience, there's probably only 2 or 3, which they will remain nameless.
That's fine.
And then there's other ones, which there's a ton of DJs. So I have to always differentiate when people call coldly, like from the internet, from a Google search, and they're like, okay, what do you do that's different? We want just a DJ. So we rarely, probably never send out just a DJ, because I find a one person cannot run a bar or bat mitzvah by himself. Usually it's a male DJ. DJ meaning the person playing the music. So those other DJs, they're great. They're young guys. They're talented. They're hungry. They're wonderful, and they're probably more suited towards the smaller parties or the weddings. For a bar or bat mitzvah, you need to have a troupe, a crew that's cohesive and works together. Right. So I'd say only 2 or 3 on our level in the tri-state area. There's maybe 1 or 2 in Florida, 1 in Philly. There's 1 maybe in California. It's not a lot. There's none in Chicago. We get calls from Chicago and Cincinnati all the time. I just did a party. I did a wedding in Phoenix on March 31st because nobody did this. Yeah.
That's great. So you're really owning the market over there. That's really incredible.
Thankfully, a good friend of mine in the business, he told me one time, he goes, we're like blessed to live in the New York tri-state area, because how many Jewish day school kids are there? I'm like, yeah, 100% correct. So we can't have it all. So you share the wealth and everybody's happy, and you try and treat everybody kindly.
So why would someone hire a DJ for a wedding as opposed to going with a band? I was actually having this conversation the other night with my good friend and famous cantor, Chaim David Burson. He was talking about how he's getting back into the wedding scene, but because he's a cantor, he's a chazan, predominantly in the modern Orthodox circles. And he was saying how a lot of people now in those circles are looking more to hire a DJ and not a singer or not a band. So why would someone bring a DJ to a wedding as opposed to, whether it's price, whether it's whatever, but like, why would someone bring a DJ to do a wedding as opposed to like a full band?
So that whole concept is quite interesting. It was happening in the Jewish world, in the modern Orthodox world now. It happened in the secular world in the 80s.
Right.
So in the 80s, bands did every party, bar mitzvahs, bat mitzvahs, weddings, and then DJs came on and took over. It was a price thing then and talent thing. So in the Jewish world, what's happening? It's happening way slower. I should say Orthodox world. It's happening a lot slower.
That's generally how things happen.
Yeah. In the Sephardic world, it's very common. It's well known. There's a ton of Sephardic DJ companies that do weddings, and they'll rarely have bands at the Sephardic, and I mean, like Syrian and the Israeli parties, they will never, they don't even have bands anymore. And I don't really do those because it's a culture thing. I grew up in Canarsie, Brooklyn, and Ashkenaz background, so I'm very into the Ashkenaz world. Not that we don't do Sephardic, but we're predominantly Ashkenaz. So
it's a different culture.
Yeah, it's way different. So I tell my clients when they call, oh, do you do Sephardic parties? I tell them, yes, but you're probably better off with someone who's very familiar with what you're doing, Sephardic-wise. Now, coming back to the Ashki world, it started out probably 5 years ago, 6 years ago, where people would call me to do the last set, meaning the last hour. So they'd hire whatever band, and the band would do the great party, the chuppah, the bedech and the chuppah, everything, and play the whole first dance, second dance, bench. And I would have to be set up before all that happened, obviously, because I don't want to shut all the equipment in during the event. And then the last hour, I would start that set off with whatever music they want, whether it's the Gad Elbaz style shweki or mixed in with like secular Parav music. What's happening now is it's slowly segueing into people wanting just a DJ at the modern Orthodox. It's still not the majority. It's still a minority of parties. Second weddings, pretty much all will have DJs because they went through the process in the one time and they don't want to do the whole crazy, 8-piece band.
Right.
And also the younger people want a different vibe because they want to hear the music that they know. So they want to hear that Shweki song sung by Shweki without paying for Shweki. So we're a lot less expensive than a band. I love bands. They're wonderful. We actually book bands a lot of people will call me and ask for advice, and I'll say, listen, if you really want that classy orchestra feel, let me get you a band if you don't know one of your own. So we work with 3 or 4
Right.
different band companies, and they'll do, like I said, the cocktail, the bedecken, the chuppah. I'll organize it. I'll manage the entire event. I'm working with the client one-on-one like I would always do
Mm-hmm.
as a sort of an event planner. And then either during the second set or third set, I'll take over DJing the party with the band leaving at that point. So I love bands, and my goal is to make my clients happy, whether they want a band or not with the DJ. I'm not trying to sell them, oh, you should have a DJ because I understand bands are a different feel. It's a different
Right. There's a different atmosphere. There's a different vibe when you have a band there, and it's a different type of energy. I mean, I'm a musician myself. I play drums, guitar, saxophone, keyboard. I've dabbled in a number of different things. And actually, at my wedding, I got up on stage. My friend got on the drum kit. I got up on stage and rocked a couple songs on the guitar. And yeah, it was fun. This is going back like 8 years ago. It was real fun. And like, it's a different energy with a band. Like when you have a band going out there and doing their thing, to a DJ, because the music really, like, because it's all like electronic and everything's, it's very pulsating, and people can feel it, and people can, you get into it in a different way. But it's cool that you don't like just say, oh, well, DJs are great, you should use a DJ. You're kind of very like neutral. You're like, well, this could work for you. This could work for you. You're a good salesman.
That's always about the client. I if they're going to have a band with us, they're going to pay $7,500 to $10,000, which a band would cost without the DJ. A good band. A DJ, like if I were to do a full wedding by myself, it's $3,000. So a lot of people also, it's budget. You're going to spend either $7,000 to $10,000, or I could play, in the Shama Nagina style music for our first dance set with Simon Tov and Mazel Tov and all that stuff, and everyone's having a great time. So
right.
Yeah, whatever the client's good. If they have the money, great. Have your orchestra with me, without me, hopefully with me. But they don't have to. They don't have to. So, like I said, it's all about the client.
For sure. Now, what advice would you give to people who are in the market to making a simcha, looking for the music, like non-biased advice? Like, what kind of advice would you give somebody in this parsha who's looking to make a bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, a wedding, and they're looking and they're shopping around for entertainment? What would you say to them?
So, what's very important, I feel, is a relationship, a connection with either the party of the event planner, party planner, orchestra, DJ, all the vendors, because they're going to be working closely with that person or people until the day of the Simcha. So the connection is very important. You don't want somebody who's pushy, who's too not pushy enough, because if you want things done a certain way, and you want the music person to tell the caterer, not in a mean way, but communicate. The client would like this. Could we try and get this set done at this point in time? And what time do you want to serve your food? So you need someone who also has the experience and the chutzpah is the wrong word, but just the
you can say chutzpah. It's not wrong.
So if they have the chutzpah to tell the other vendors, listen, the food and the music are very important. People, when I say that to clients, are like, no, music's the most important. I'm like, okay, great. So at that point, I'll take the reins and I'll tell the caterers, gently and nicely, I'm friendly with all of them. The client would like this. How do you want to work it into the schedule? If you want to do your main course at 3:30, great. Please don't start at 2:15, because I need that time to make sure the client gets that set in. And it usually works very well, because taking control with the other vendors or working hand in hand with other vendors who know what they're doing is so important for a client to have. I've worked events where literally it's like a caterer at a venue where they're not the house account. They just hired to bring food in. So like waiters show up with no maitre d', and then I have to do it all. I don't mind, but I didn't know ahead of time. So what happens is I wound up becoming literally a maitre d' at those type of events, which I'm able and capable of doing, and I love doing it. But it happens at times if you don't have the other capable vendors that are able to do what needs to be done to pull off an amazing simcha.
That's great. Well, your advice is definitely something that people should take into consideration. But because it's so true. The connections, I find this with anything, the connections you have with people when you're working together on something, when you're trying to make something happen, is very crucial to the success of whatever you're trying to do. Whether it's an event, whether it's a business, whether it's anything, and that those connections and the way you relate to everybody, it really truly is the way to making sure you make the right decision when finding your vendors. Now, as a guest on our show, what do you have any promotion you want to give over to the people listening if they're in the situation in the matzah to book a DJ for the next event? Is there any type of promotion you have available going on right now?
Yeah, I'd love to offer something to all your listeners, especially weddings, because we love doing the weddings, and we're trying to increase that as well. We do an amazing wedding, have video, and I have clients who could vouch for that. So the usual $3,000 package, which includes myself, all the sound, music for the ceremony, for the chuppah, for the reception, all the planning. So that will do. I could offer for a $2,500. I also have all musicians that work with me, and a nice package I offer is that package with a violinist for $3,750. I would do that for $3,000. So they could literally save $750 and add a really nice touch of class during the, cocktail hour as well as the chuppah. So
that's amazing. To all our listeners out there, if you are looking to make a wedding coming up, DJ Jeff is going to extend that offer to you guys, and I think it's something really worthwhile to take advantage of. Can I ask you a question? Has anybody ever called you DJ Jazzy Jeff? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I had to ask.
Everyone in my shul.
So you're DJ Jazzy Jeff.
Jazzy Jeff, there he is. And I'm like, oh, please stop it. I'm not the Fresh Prince's DJ, but it's pretty funny.
I was about to say, is anybody picking you up and tossing you out of houses saying, ah? No.
Thankfully, no.
Anybody who people should be able to get that reference, I hope. Maybe not our listeners, but that's okay.
I got it. So I just also want to add that, I'm located in the New York tri-state area, but we do travel. So anywhere in the country, as I said, I just did a party in Phoenix. I've been in Chicago a dozen times, Cincinnati, Boston, Florida. We even come to Israel. It is probably a big schlep, right, and a lot of planning to do. But for a wedding, anywhere in the world we'll go. And bar bat mitzvahs as well. It would entail bringing the entire crew. So, but we're definitely open to doing that. So just want your listeners to know we go everywhere.
That's amazing. Well, Jeff, it was a pleasure to have you on the show. You took us beyond the Simcha. You took us inside your world to let people understand more about what goes into making a great event with a DJ. And it's not just sitting up there spinning the CDs, putting on different music. It's a whole avoda. It really is to get people up on their feet, to really entertain the crowd and show people a good time. So, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming on the show. And I look forward to seeing more good things come out from you guys in the future. And I look forward to keep working with you and seeing only simchas and only good things coming from you. So Beautiful. Keep it up, my friend. Hatzlacha Rabba.
Thank you. Hatzlacha Rabba to you and this podcast and the business. And I'm looking forward to moving forward with you guys and doing a lot of stuff. And thank you to all the listeners for listening to this. And
for sure.
For the next Simcha.
Just listen to another wonderful episode of Go Simcha Podcast. For more news, updates, and information on our next episode, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram at Go Simcha Live, and don't forget to check out the show notes and videos on www.gosimcha.com along with zeradio.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, Go Simcha!